What's up, everybody? It's week 14. This is the pre-kickoff show with Line Movement, joined as always by the best in the biz. We're talking all things DFS, all things betting here on Sunday morning. Joe Holka and Peter Overzet. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I just want to know if you're okay. It was a little bit of a tough week 13 show for you, so I just want to make sure that we're all good between you and Peter, right? Is there any weird feelings between you guys after what happened?
I think we're okay, but that's really for Peter to decide.
Joe, I thought we were okay, and I was really looking forward to kind of hashing things out before the show, getting on the right page, and then Dieter is dodging us and comes in at the 11th hour. So we have unresolved issues that we're going to just have to work out throughout the show here. And I trust that he won't try to disagree with any of my quarterback takes because it hasn't been going well for him, Joe.
It's true. It's very true. Sometimes it's better just to hash it out live, right? For the show, I suppose. But I'm going to have to be in between you guys as you do your virtual fight, I feel like, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Remember, we were going to box and then I backed out when I realized he was 6'11".
Yeah. And luckily we're on different sides of the country. So I guess I'll meet you in Lincoln, Nebraska at some point down the line. Do you guys want to talk some games? Do we want to get into it, or do me and Pete want to do couples therapy here?
I'm so distracted by what producer Jordan just put on the screen right now. This is literally the Dieter going like this when we're talking about Derek Carr last week.
Did Jordan happen to acquire some photos that I took live during the show? That's funny how that happened. I don't know how Jordan got those.
I hacked into the network.
Don't be late.
I stole it. This is what happens when you're late, Dieter. But I think that Lincoln's a great place. I also enjoy Omaha sometimes. They have a great arena. We'll set it up. Guys, let us know in chat. We'll see how it goes.
Dieter, is that like our version of the guy who wanted to meet Kobe Bryant in Temecula? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. It's not Temecula because that's very close to me. That'd be a home field advantage for me. So it's meet me in Omaha, baby. Let's do this thing.
There we go. Neutral.
Quest, is it still the Quest Arena? No, okay, we're off track. Let's talk Vikings and Buccaneers. Let's start with 7.5 point spread, 52.5 point total. This is a fascinating game because you look at what Kirk Cousins has been doing. He's been awesome. But then Tampa Bay in that run game, do you have to put more weight on the shoulders of Kirk Cousins? We're going to find out. I don't know if he can handle it. Let's go to our resident Minnesotan, Joe Holka. What do you make of this game? What's the DFS play here?
I mean, we just keep looking to these pass catchers, right? On the Minnesota side with Thielen, with Jefferson, they're both pretty expensive. But man, it's still moderate ownership, looking at 9 to 12% right now in this spot against Tampa Bay. I think there's this stigma of Tampa Bay's defense of being super elite. I don't know if that's really the case. They've been very good against the run, but Dalvin Cook's going to get his 30 some touches on the ground again, which is kind of it's an interesting spot overall. I think the bring back, if you are to stack up Kirk Cousins on the other side of the Tampa Bay, it's just so widespread just throughout that offense right now that I don't know if I have a clear guy on the other side of Kirk Cousins stacks that I'm in love with. But yeah, I'm all over Thielen and Jefferson. I guess, Pete, this is one that I've warmed up to a little bit as the week came on because I expected the ownership to go up and it really hasn't.
Yeah, this ownership is in check all over the place. I kind of prefer Dalvin if I'm playing a Viking over the receivers, but I agree. I think they're good plays. It's just shocking to me that Thielen and Jefferson are going to come in higher owned than Dalvin Cook. And I get that there's a huge price gap. I mean, it's like $2,500 between them. But man, to get Dalvin at 6 or 7% ownership, which is what I'm seeing right now, because everyone's gravitating to Derrick Henry and Devontae Adams, he's going to be the odd man out. And, this is one of those things where Alexander Madison's not playing again. His workload, regardless of game script, is going to be super nice here. And I also love the Tampa Bay side a lot. Ronald Jones is one of my favorite running back GPP plays here. I think Antonio Brown is pretty mispriced at 5,500. You can always play Evans or Godwin as well. You can toss in Gronk. It's kind of like the Colts situation where people don't know where the ball is going to go, so they don't like playing these guys, but they have a 30 implied team total and in just a super nice spot here at home versus the Vikings. So I want pieces of this Bucs lineup, a Bucs team in all my lineups.
Is there any, obviously DFS players are concerned about it intrinsically because the ownership is low, but does it scare you guys away that Tampa Bay does have a really good rush defense that they might just completely sell out and dare Kirk Cousins to beat them, and that they might take away the Minnesota run game in totality? Or is Minnesota so headstrong that it just won't matter? They're just going to keep running the ball, in which case he might not be that great of a play because he keeps running into 8-man boxes. How do you feel about it, Joe?
Yeah, I think his volume is just so safe through the air as well that it makes some sense in terms of like volume, but his efficiency is definitely going to take a ding here. I think that the biggest thing, and I'm sure Pete is on board with this, of like it actually being a better play in tournaments, because just no one's going to play him at this salary. So at this ownership, I think it makes sense based on where all the ownership's just going to go to Derrick Henry probably in this range anyway. So is that more of the reason? I don't know. We're not too focused on the matchup, Pete, but like a 5% Dalvin Cook, a guy that's just continued to get like 30 touches a game, like that's the thesis behind the play, right?
And even if the Bucks get up, like Dalvin Cook is going to be on the field catching those checkdowns. They're good at doing play action, doing screen passes to him. So I'm just like not worried about it. I'm just chasing that volume in that role. And if we think that this game really pushes the pace here, I just want pieces of it. But yeah, I get it. The price tag's expensive. But again, we talk about these spots. If 2 or 3 weeks ago you said, hey, you can get Dalvin Cook at 5% ownership, you would be falling over yourselves to do it.
Right.
And then we start staring at the matchup. We start, oh, it's not a good spot. But it doesn't matter. It's Dalvin Cook. No one's stealing pass work from him. So yeah, I think you need to have a sprinkling of Dalvin Cook today.
Do you have a favorite pass catcher, Pete, before we move on the Tampa Bay side? Because I'm struggling a little bit with this. I think the Antonio Brown thing is at least interesting. I don't know. It seems like they've kind of moved away from him recently as well. So I don't know. I don't know where to go. I think Gronk feels the safest, believe it or not. But maybe they just get Evans and Godwin more involved. I haven't played enough Evans personally over the last little while, but I struggle with this passing game.
Yeah, I just prefer, Antonio Brown's opportunity has been really good. He was in the air yards by low model this week. The Minnesota corners have been nothing to write home about. The thing I like about Antonio Brown is that they're using him both in the short area of the field and taking shots down the field. And I just like that he's the cheapest of those guys at 5,500. But I honestly like all of them. I would rank them for me, AB, Godwin, then Evans. But again, I think you should be taking shots at these Bucks pass catchers today.
3 targets is tough for AB though, man. Last week, with 9 each going to Godwin and Evans and 7 to Gronk, AB might be one of my least favorite of the group. But yeah, I think that before that game, maybe it's just a 1-game sample that's bugging me in my head right now.
Ronald Jones, the prop on him is 7.5 receiving yards. I had to double take it. Over or under? Joe?
Ronald Jones, 7.5 receiving yards. That's basically right where I would have it. So I think that I probably just would come in on the over by default, because I do want to be heavier on Ronald Jones. Great FanDuel price on him. DraftKings a little bit tougher. But Pete, you're a resident thin running back expert. So is Ronald Jones a play?
I think he's a great play, and I would take the over on that. Ronald Jones, let's just face it, he doesn't have great hands, so people don't want to bet receiving props on him. But all it takes is one screen pass, and Ronald Jones will clear over that total. So I like this spot for the whole offense. I like the spot for Ronald Jones. So I'm taking overs on those low numbers.
70% of the cash right now is on the Bucks to win by a touchdown. That's aggressive, but I get it. Again, you look at a team like Minnesota, you think that's a 1-channel team. We'll see if they're a 2-channel team, or maybe even a 3. Who the hell knows by the end of the day. Fascinating game and huge playoff implications as well. Let's shift to one that only has playoff implications for one team, an AFC South showdown. Tennessee and Jacksonville. Tennessee is a 7.5-point favorite on the road, as you would expect. Another 52.5-point total. Peter, are you playing anybody in this game?
So this is the classic spot, the Derrick Henry affordably an affordable price here, and he's going to come with massive ownership. I'm seeing anywhere from 25 to 40%, depending on which contest you're playing. People are also going to play James Robinson, rightfully so. He's just one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent running back in fantasy right now. And then both of the Titans wide receivers as well are going to be fairly popular. AJ Brown, Corey Davis. Man, this is tough. At this ownership, I think I am trending toward fading Derrick Henry. It's helpful that he plays in the 1 p.m. slot. I kind of just prefer Devontae Adams in a vacuum to Derrick Henry. And not only do you get the benefit of little less ownership, but you get to wait and see how Henry does and make your decisions afterwards. So that's how I'm going. I'm not going to fault anyone for playing Derrick Henry. I think you just need to be mindful of how you're using him and making sure you're not too chalky. One good way to do that would be bringing it back with the Jacksonville piece. And again, DJ Chark stands out to me as that guy you'd want to bring it back with. I'm curious if Joe's with me on that stuff.
Yeah, I love Chark on the other side. I think especially if you're playing Derrick Henry, I'd prefer not to have Robinson probably in that same game. I think the Derrick Henry play, you have to think of it as like this is the 1 p.m. game, right? So that really matters when you're spending up that much salary for a guy that is going to be extremely highly owned. So like when you're building these types of rosters, I'm trying to get Derrick Henry on teams where I have my stack relatively open as well, so that if I have a Derrick Henry explosion spot, maybe I can still stay on a more popular stack in the 4 p.m. But if we have a Derrick Henry dud, I can just pivot to something that's much lower owned. We have 6 games, I believe, in the afternoon. So I think that's the way to do it. I like the idea of adding Chark because that's going to be a little bit more unique as well. But a lot of times, like when you're building lineups this morning, you kind of have to make that decision between Derrick Henry and Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is in the 4 p.m. game. So like that's the one that I'm leaning towards having more of just because I'm going to have more information. And I just hate playing Derrick Henry at 35%. It's just so tough mentally to do for a guy that doesn't catch balls.
I mean, isn't before the last few weeks the Joe Holka stance that I hate playing Derrick Henry in general, but he's been good to you. He's been good to you this year.
Yeah, and I've been playing him at lower ownership, so like this will be I'm due to get back on track of hating this guy. I think so at 35%, and I'll be underweight. Yeah, it's a great week to be in pain.
This is another producer Jordan prop. He loves sending these deep props, right? Like we're not talking about the big ones. Like how many yards is Aaron Rodgers going to go for? Ryan Tannehill 10.5 rushing yards in this game. Who wants the over? Who wants the under? We'll start with you, Joe.
I like the over here. I think that Tannehill's still a guy that we want to target overall in this spot. I like the passing game in general, but from a rushing perspective, like I still think that he's a guy that has some upside on the ground. He could get that in one play. So that seems a little bit low to me. I'm on the over, like pretty significantly. I think that he's probably like the projection I think we have on our data table right now is like 14 rushing yards roughly. So yeah, I think I'm on the over.
Yeah, I have him between like 15 and 17 at my sources. And the way that I'm looking at this game overall is that there's a lot of betting value here. And I know you guys are caught up in a lot of the DFS stuff today, but right now we have a minus 7.5 on the Titans. I'm looking to tease that number up or take an alternate line at like maybe 8 points, minus 8. Because I don't, to be honest, I don't see a big difference between 7.5 and 8. So if I could get maybe like 30 points in positive value there, I'll take it. So I'm actually hammering minus 8 on the Titans today, and you could get it basically let me click it here, it's been changing. You could get it anywhere from about plus 110 to plus 120. So I mean, I like that extra juice there. So that's what I'm doing at least.
Jordan, can you release your sources?
You and everybody else.
At the beginning, you said your sources.
Well, yeah, you know, like we discussed it. You know, I try to keep it low. But basically, what I like to do is I take all of the different projection sources that I'm using, and I like to take a little bit of an aggregate for them. Nothing too advanced. An aggregate.
So someone in the chat says Henry is from Jacksonville. He hasn't had a bad game at Jacksonville in like 4 years. I mean, against Jacksonville earlier in the season, he had 84 yards and caught 0 passes. So I mean, Henry is very good.
That's a bad game by Derrick Henry.
Played T.Y. Hilton against Houston last week. Maybe we should listen to him, man.
All right.
Yeah. Listen, the knowledge is all in the comments section. It is not on the screen right here.
Jacksonville's had the same defense for the last 4 years, if you didn't know. Every single player that has been there for 4 straight years. So good stuff. We need the narratives in our analysis, Pete. That's where we're really lacking right now. Is like I had no idea.
You guys talked me out. I used to bring the narratives, then you made fun of me so much. Now I don't do narratives anymore. So that's on you.
Narrative. That's why you're here, Dieter.
The more we say that Derrick Henry is a fish play at high ownership, the more likely he is to go off. It's absolute science. So let's move on.
Okay, fine. Let's move on. You know what? Peter runs the show, so let's move on. Arizona is playing the Giants. The location isn't important. Arizona's a 2.5 point favorite, and it's a 46.5 point total. And I'm going to go die. Thank you.
The location's not important all of a sudden. Did anyone? So we have 300 people in the chat right now. I would imagine there's a portion of those people that were there live for the Bets Against the Spread show on Tuesdays. Dieter goes on this 3 to 4 minute, like legit. Like I like went and got a coffee and came back rant about
It's a
like
deep rant.
this cross country travel for the Giants and like going back. He didn't understand why they wouldn't have just like stayed in Arizona. The game is in New York, and
There was a back and forth. No. Lamar.
We let you go. You were
that led me on. No, it's on me. It was bad.
Then the chat
in
blows
New York,
up. The game is in New York. Why is he talking about the game being in Arizona? So I don't know.
Focus, guys. Yeah. Let's get focused.
Okay, sure.
Arizona has to travel all the way across the country. They're going to be super dehydrated by the time they get there. Not only are they starting in a desert, they got to get on an airplane and go to New York and play the Giants, who have Daniel Jones back. Joe, I mean, what's going on with your Cardinals? Are only 2.5-point favorites against the New York Football Giants. What are we doing? Like, how bad do they want to give this playoff spot up, my man?
I don't know, man. It's been tough because Kyler's been banged up, obviously, not running as much. They're not calling as many design run plays in general, so he hasn't even had the opportunity to run based on what they've been doing with the playbook. But Pete, there's no ownership in this game whatsoever. So that's interesting to me. I think Evan Ingram is super interesting on the Giant side. Obviously, Danny Dimes back. Both of these quarterbacks coming in at probably sub 10 for sure, maybe even sub 5 in some situations. No one's going to play Nuke because there's so many strong wide receiver options at the top end. I don't know, man. Is this just like a really thin idea overall to attack this game? I am kind of interested in like some tournament type of scenarios.
Yeah, it's really tough. Everyone, all of us, mega mind galaxy brain players rolled out Kyler last week. We all got burned. Mm-hmm. I don't think things are that different this week. And now even, mega minds don't want to play him. I think there are some interesting plays in this game. If I were to do it, it would probably be a Kyler skinny stack with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he had 13 targets again. The offense is really uncreative right now but the one thing that they do is feed DeAndre Hopkins, and he's cheap at 7,600. On the other side of the ball, I kind of like Evan Ingram. He's standing out to me at 8 targets last week. He projects well at 4,300 and is not going to gain or garner a lot of ownership. So I don't mind it. This isn't a game I'm stacking up. And honestly, I made 5 lineups this morning. I don't have a single guy from this game in it yet. So yeah, that's where I'm at. It might be a mistake not to have some Kyler and Hopkins, but it's a gross spot.
It's got to be a prove-it spot for Kyler, right? Like, I have to see him perform like the Kyler Murray of earlier this season again before I'm getting in on it. It's just too big of a bet right now. He just doesn't want to run. He doesn't want to run. Kyler Murray provides surprisingly little upside, given that they run an air raid offense, which is just basically bubble screens to Nuke on the left. Like, it is pretty basic, pretty easy to defend. I don't like a lot of what the Giants do on defense. I think they're really slow, especially at linebacker. But if you're not doing anything dynamic, what the hell's the problem? I think that not only, and listen, man, I want Arizona to play well. I want my man Joe Holka to be happy. But like, they're giving this thing back. It might be 8-8 to make the playoffs in the NFC. And that might be Minnesota or San Francisco or Arizona. But Arizona wants to hand this thing back like nobody's business. I would stay far away from this game until we see what the hell Kyler Murray has. And if he continues to regress, I don't know, man. Maybe we just put a fork in him and just say that it's over for the year.
One thing I'll say before we move on from this game, Peter and Dieter, God, that should have been the name of the show. Peter and Dieter, I can just go hang out for an hour. The over is currently getting 82% of the money. So I think that's somewhat interesting, especially a game that no one's really interested for DFS. Yes, Pete?
I was just trying to come up with a good name. It's like a football sandwich on pita bread with a cup of Joe. I'm going to workshop it. Guys.
Why don't you go take the rest of the show? I'll figure that out, and we'll talk about Denver and Carolina, which has equal levels of importance. Joe, can you play anybody here? Do you like anybody here?
I do.
Who do you like?
And so from a fantasy perspective, at least, like Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel are going to be the chalk, mostly just because no DJ Moore in this spot, and Denver's not very good. So I think there's some arguments in favor of both those guys at their price point. I'm sure Peter will be back to tell us about that. But I guess getting our hand in the dirt a little bit, 2 of their top cornerbacks on the Broncos side, AJ Bouye and Bryce Callahan, are out in this spot. So Robbie Anderson, complete smash spot at 6,500 on FanDuel. He is 6,200 on DraftKings. Curtis Samuel maybe slots into more of a traditional type of wide receiver role with DJ Moore out. We're going to get some low ownership if we wanted to attack someone like Mike Davis. Overall, if you wanted to bring back on the Denver side, I think probably Noah Fant. No one's going to basically be going after Noah Fant at 4,100 or a guy like Tim Patrick on the cheaper side of things. Pete, tell us how much Robbie Anderson you have right now.
Right now, I have him in 2 of my lineups. When you look at his ownership right now, it seems like he's going to catch some. But the more I kind of think through how people are building this week, I do think he could be one of those guys that get forgotten. I was talking with Leone about this morning, where I think people are very much trending towards these studs and dud lineups. Again, they're getting up to Devontae Adams. They're punting it off with, say the Jets receivers. And I think these guys in this mid-range are going to really fly under the radar. And I also think if people are playing someone from this game, they'd rather just save the $1,000 and play Curtis Samuel. So I could really see Robbie Anderson coming in under 10%, depending on how big your contest size is. And yeah, I think he's an awesome play at that price and ownership. And I also have some interest on the Denver guys. Joe mentioned Noah Fant. He looks like another great tight end play. And I think KJ Hamler as well at the stone minimum. I don't think he's that much different of a play than, say, Braxton Berrios. And come in at lower ownership. And you also know that nothing is going to change with inactives, whereas we're dealing with a Jamison Crowder situation with Berrios. So yeah, I think this is a game you want some pieces of. Mike Davis as well is probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite running back plays on the slate.
What do you like about Davis? He's been so up and down. Obviously, he's going to get the volume, and I guess that's what you're really craving here, right, Pete?
Yeah, I think there is room for tomfoolery. We saw them last week. You come out, or 2 weeks ago before their bye, and Rodney Smith gets the first carry and stuff. But then as the game progresses, he normally gets up to his 15 to 17 touches. He's going to catch 4 or 5 balls. And if we think this game goes over the total, which I'm kind of leaning toward, I think he could definitely get there. If he falls in the end zone with that workload, he's going to be a smash at that price.
The total is 44.5. That feels like it should go over, given all the guys that we like from a DFS perspective in this game. Are you both in on the over? We've already heard Pete, so I guess it's a question for Joe.
Yeah, no, I like the over in this spot. I think I'm still struggling a little bit to see the upside on the Denver side, I guess. But I think that if we wanted to just look at what we've seen so far, it looks like some sharp action coming in on the over in this spot, probably for a lot of the reasons we just touched on. I don't know. I think the number is at least, I don't know if this is my favorite over spot, but I think just like looking at the game from kind of more of a granular, large scale perspective, that makes some sense for sure.
I think I'm with you. On
I'll also
44.5.
mention if you're looking at optimals, I don't have him in any of my lineups, but Teddy Bridgewater is just projecting very well in this spot. I know it's gross and he doesn't give you quite the ceiling that the top end guys do, but if you are trying to get in, say, 2 of the high guys, like you want Henry and Adams, Bridgewater might be your way to do that.
Right now, 68% of the money is on an over with a 50-50 ticket split. So it does seem like the books want to tell us to bet the under here, that they're really holding strong on that line. So we'll see how it goes. If Denver has any offense whatsoever, if Carolina can get back to a norm against, as you guys mentioned, a Denver defense that's good but depleted, yeah, this might be an interesting play. But let's move on. Kansas City is playing in warm weather in Miami. Are we just are we just going a full Chiefs lineup stack here? They're, by the way, 7.5 point favorites with a 50.5 point spread at the Fins. How many Chiefs can you play, Joe Holka?
As many as you can, probably. I've been kind of behind, I guess, on trying to fully stack up this offense because it's hard to do from a salary perspective. But we've seen these Mahomes and Tyreek and Kelsey teams just get there. It is a week where we have some decent salary saving options available. I do think it's going to be a popular spot, but there's parts of this game that are cheaper. I'm sure we'll get to DeAndre Washington very shortly here. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are an amazing spot. I think that this Miami defense is legit, but I also think that we still need to kind of look at what this KC offense is doing, the ceiling they have. But for all of them to get there, they've got to completely smash. So Pete, where are you at on KC? Moderate, but I mean, there's definitely some ownership here.
Yeah, I think the ownership is fairly clear in this game. They're going to play Mahomes in the premium double there, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and then people are going to play DeAndre Washington coming back as well. I think he projects very well at 4,000. If you're like me and thinks he gets, 90%, 95% of what Gaskins was going to get, then he's a solid play. I think you can be a little concerned about the ceiling, and that's fine. But again, I don't think there's a ton of opportunity cost at running back this week, just because it's not as cut and dry as we've had in past weeks. I haven't experimented with getting too off the board in this game. I think Devontae Parker looks like a pretty nice kind of leverage play at 6,100. We know he's going to get, 7 to 8 targets every week. The question is just how effective this offense can be with Tua right now. But we know the Chiefs force teams to pick up the pace, to pass more. And so I don't mind that. And then my other kind of thought that I had this morning is, even though Tyreek Hill is projecting for a decent amount of ownership, and he's just been the hottest receiver in football, I think he might get squeezed. I think if people are playing someone from this game, I think they're going to play Travis Kelce, get rid of the tight end uncertainty in your lineup. And then if you're paying up for wide receiver, people want Devontae Adams. He has even a higher floor and a similar ceiling. So I could really see Tyreek Hill being sneakily, I don't want to say underowned, or no, I don't want to say unowned, but he could be underowned here. So I'm gravitating to Tyreek Hill right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting, Pete. I didn't hear any reference of Patrick Laird. What's going on?
Here's the thing. The team has had many chances to expand Patrick Laird's workload. He's going to catch 3 to 4 balls in this game. They're going to use Lynn Bowden a little bit too. They're using him more as a wide receiver. But the MO of this offense all year, from day one with Myles Gaskin to when Savon Ahmed was in, to when Breida and Laird fumbled and DeAndre Washington came in against the Jets, they want to use one back as both a runner and a pass catcher. So other than him getting breathers, I don't think DeAndre Washington is coming off the field much.
It's a damn shame. It really is. Unless you're playing him, of course, because I was hoping for a full Laird's day on this Sunday. I thought that would have been spectacular. People paying attention with Kansas City. It would have been great.
Yeah, but then people come after me. They say I'm disingenuous. And so I have to really weigh the pros and cons of being a prophet and being a disingenuous tout.
Everybody's in on Kansas City in this game. Does anyone want to take Miami to cover the 7.5? We'll just do this now. 7.5. Anyone want those sweet points?
I think when we kind of just look at where the betting dollars are right now, 79% of the money is on Kansas City. I just would prefer to be on that side of this one, I think.
Yeah.
You looked consternated, my friend.
I was thinking, if I were to bet this one and I wanted to kind of bet on the Dolphins, I think I'd probably just bet on the over in hope, but I just think, the Chiefs have the capability to boat race anyone and score so quickly that I'd prefer not to bet on the Dolphins to have to cover that.
All right, so that's a very good game, right? Even if the line is peculiar in and of itself. Ooh. This is a very bad game.
Sorry, Pete's Inactive corner just saw a surprise come across. I need a few minutes though, but
yeah, we're gonna let that lie. We're gonna let it lie. We all saw it, but we're gonna let it lie because I think that those who didn't see it want the full anticipation to build. Let's talk Dallas and Cincinnati, which is the opposite of anticipation. Whatever that is, this is it. Dallas is a 3.5 point favorite at Cincinnati. 44.5 point total. Anyone want to buy in on the Cowboys? Anyone in on the Cowboys? Joe Hulker, are you in on the Cowboys?
Dieter, my favorite part about this show is that from a real life football perspective and a betting perspective, all the stuff that you're a little bit more focused on, you have no interest in this game whatsoever. You're not going to watch it. You don't care. But there's these cheaper plays for DFS. It's these guys are super interesting to me. Michael Gallup is very cheap. He's 3,800 on DraftKings. We have CeeDee Lamb 4,800 on DraftKings. Even on the other side, Tyler Boyd is 4,900. He's extremely underpriced. So there's cheaper pieces of this game that are interesting overall. The Dallas defense is gaining a ton of steam because they're only 2,400 in this spot against Brandon Allen. So this is the game where you find all your cheap plays, and it looks like there's still going to be moderate ownership across the board here. But just looking at the math and the data, I think there's still some value here for DFS. Maybe if you could talk yourself into some Gio Bernard at low ownership. This Dallas team was absolutely shredded on the ground by Baltimore recently, and Gio Bernard's going to get whatever. He's going to get his 13 to 17 touches like he always does. But I have some interest in this game for some cheap plays. Pete, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm with you too. This isn't a game that I'm going to stack up. I don't want any part of the Andy Dalton / Brandon Allen experience, but I do agree there's some nice values here. Michael Gallup at 3,800. I think he's a nice pivot off of the Perriman chalk at 3,900. I think he has an even higher target floor and probably similar ceiling that Perriman does. And with these cheap wide receivers, unless you're, heavily stacking a game and you're trying to correlate, I think it always makes sense to play the lower owned guy of these thinner plays. I think T Higgins, looks good as well at 4,800. I know he was on the injury report early in the week, but man, he just continues to produce with every quarterback. He had 7 targets last week, had a decent amount of air yards. And I think I want a few little pieces here to round out my lineup, but nothing crazy. I'm probably not going to pay up for any of the premium pieces like Zeke or Amari. They just seem a little too expensive and lack the upside that I want right now.
Nick in the chat coming in with an interesting question. Anyone want to play AJ Green this week? Remember when AJ Green was somebody that we talked about all the time, just part of our day-to-day lives, and now, oh boy, it's quite different. Anyone want AJ Green this week? AJ Green redemption story. Who's buying it?
I think that we could probably get some value on T Higgins coming off this injury. So I think he's pretty clearly like my 4th favorite Cincy guy. I think I prefer Gio, Higgins, and Boyd by a significant margin over AJ Green.
Oh, that's physically painful.
You could literally just make up a name of someone. You could be like, Chad Hansen. And I'd be like, yeah, I want them over AJ Green. Oh, that's a real guy? Yeah.
He's very handsome.
For AJ guy.
Peter, are you ready?
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready to go. Should I put on my hard hat? No, am I going to space?
This is your segment, my friend. You can do whatever it is you want.
A hard hat in space. I'm still confused on why that's a thing, but I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we float on this rock that spins in the cosmos, there's only one man we can turn to for all of our inactive news. He is above us, floating above us, his galaxy brain truly resplendent in the sky. It is time for Peter Overzet's Inactive Corner.
Welcome to the cosmos, folks. I am floating through space. I have asteroids and inactive news coming at me. I will dodge it. I will help us avoid the landmines in our roster. The big one, it just came out. Leonard Fournette is inactive. Here's the thing. I actually don't think it changes that much. I think Ronald Jones' role is still pretty similar. They're promoting the rookie. Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be active. He is going to take over that pass-catching role. But this is exciting for Lenny Fournette haters around the world and the galaxy like myself. If you're in season-long leagues, you want to pick up Keyshawn Vaughn, go for it. I don't mind that. Another shocker. There were conflicting reports this morning. Is Brandon Cooks going to play? Is he not going to play? It was Schefter versus Rappaport. Well, Rappaport actually got one right. A blind squirrel found a nut. Brandon Cooks is inactive. They are down to Kiki Kuti, Chad Hansen, and Jordan Akins leading their pass-catching core. Fire all of those guys up. Elsewhere, we do have to wait on some things for the 4 p.m. games. It looks like Josh Jacobs is going to play. We don't know if Jamison Crowder is going to play. I'm tending to think he's not. We got DeAndre Swift, who is going to be active, but they say they're going to limit his role. We don't have any David Johnson this week. He's on the COVID list. Fire up Duke Johnson. Fire up CJ ProSize. I'm getting turbulence. I'm trying to read. We don't have Christian McCaffrey this week. We don't have DJ Moore this week. You already know all this stuff. You guys are plugged in. That's why you're watching this show. How many people are liking this video? How many people? There's so many people watching this video and they're not liking it. I'm to space for this and you can't like the video?
Yeah. Have we come back to Earth yet? Wow, that was spectacular. That's the best inactive corner we've ever had, man. You were spinning in the cosmos. Wow, that was impressive. How you feeling? You want some Tang?
I'm feeling a little out of shape. It wore me out.
I don't even know. How do we move on from that? Is that the show? Can we go build lineups?
We talk about Houston and Chicago somehow. After all of that, the perfect palate cleanser. Houston and Chicago. The Texans are 1.5 favorites in Chicago. There's no fans, but it's cold and wet. 46.5-point total. Peter, we're going to give you a minute to catch your breath there. So Joe Holka, I ask you, who do you like?
This game's kind of interesting. Obviously, with Cooks out, Kiki's still definitely in play. I think that this was one that I had a little bit more interest in if I was going to fully stack it up, if Cooks would be there. Deshaun Watson was looking like he was going to come in at super low ownership. I think that now we have Kiki, we have Akins, a very condensed target share type of group that we like to be on. I think it's more of a mini stack situation for me. You can bring it back with David Montgomery on the other side, just 6,500 on DraftKings. I mean, his price has come up for sure. On FanDuel, he's still a great value at 6,600. I mean, the floor ceiling here is something that I think is based is tied more to his volume overall. But this Texans team just really struggles to defend the run. So I think that Kiki Akins mini stacks with David Montgomery on the other side is kind of my lean currently. Pete, have you had time to catch your breath here to tell me that all three of those plays are not in your pool?
What did it look like from on high when you saw the landscape of this game? When you saw the landscape of this slate, my friend, what did it look like?
I was just trying to see if there's anyone who can catch passes from Deshaun Watson anymore. He just keeps losing these guys week after week. And I had actually built a lineup this morning. I had done a Deshaun Watson double stack because I thought, this looks like a pretty interesting spot here. Not a tough matchup. We know he has the ceiling, but then he continues to lose these pass catchers. And at some point, I feel like Deshaun Watson needs some help. So I'm probably not playing Deshaun Watson, but I do agree that you should take advantage of this value with Kiki Kuti and Akins specifically. I feel like Chad Hansen's just a little too pricey. Like I wish he was 3,000, 3,200 instead of 3,900. But I think you want to take some stabs here. And on the Bears side as well, I'm not playing the David Montgomery chalk with an elevated price tag from last week. That's just not something I'm going to make a habit of. One guy that, Joe, was kind of interesting to me was Darnell Mooney at 3,500. He's just running routes on almost every drop back. He had 6 targets last week, and they're the kind of high value targets where he gets down the field. So I'm doing lots of little mini stuff here, like an Akins and Mooney or a Kiki Kuti and even Cole Kmet at 2,900. But I don't think I'm going to be heavy on this game. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at too. I think that Mooney is a nice call. He's on the buy low, I believe, this week as well. So if we're just looking at someone that's seeing a nice opportunity, but it's pretty cheap, I think that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know if I'm on Watson anymore, though. Are you kind of away from that at this point too?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I had one, and then I pivoted it to a Russell Wilson stack, which I'm getting very excited about. And we'll talk about here in a second. But I don't fault you. If you want to play Watson, I mean, he can still have a monster game. I just worry about the playmakers who can actually get this done for him.
You guys like the Chicago defense at all? Khalil Mack is in.
I'll be honest, the Chicago defense was not on my radar. I had a few Texans defenses at 2,600. I didn't mind that. I mean, how much is the Bears defense, Joe?
They're not on my radar either, but I actually don't hate it. Watson takes a ton of sacks. So on DraftKings, looks like we have... I've been trying not to play these 1 p.m. defenses too, because I think it helps your roster so much if you can pivot to something later. But Chicago defense right now, they've got to be pretty cheap, aren't they?
They're 3,000 on DraftKings. I just checked.
Oh, so yeah, I'm probably playing Seattle probably every time in that range. You?
See, the only thing about that is Seahawks are going to be super popular. So I don't mind it, but I just like some of these cheaper, like I'm looking at the 49ers at 2,700. I don't mind the Texans. And like you said, I also like leaving room late between 49ers, Chargers, Falcons. I think those are all fine. And I'm with Joe. I like having that late flexibility.
That makes a lot of sense. I will say this, as much as we talk about Watson and you guys aren't playing him this week, we do have to start questioning, like, is some of this Deshaun Watson's fault? I mean, at some point, we have to start holding him to some scrutiny. It was Bill O'Brien, then it's the receivers. Like, this guy does take a lot of sacks. Doesn't make always the best decisions. He's got incredible talent. No one's arguing that. But I don't know if he's progressed at all. So something to keep an eye on. And especially as it pertains to the total play on this, 46.5. Chicago's not going to be putting up bonkers points, even with Mitch Trubisky as a quarterback. I know, ridiculous. But I think it might be a bit much to go in on Houston to score. And it's not just because of the receiver situation. 90% of the cash, Jordan tells us, is on the over. I don't know about that whatsoever. Let's talk about the Colts. Let's talk about the Raiders with that pesky quarterback of theirs. Colts are 3.5-point favorites in Las Vegas with a 52.5-point total. 52.5 is the number for week 14, apparently. So many 52.5s. Can't even get them all straight. Who likes the Colts? Who likes anybody on the Colts here? Are we playing T.Y. Hilton again? What are we doing, Joe Holka?
I never really play T.Y. Hilton. I think I'll live with those games like the last couple of weeks, I guess, where he's been coming back from the dead a little bit. Yeah, we talked about like the over. 89% of the money is on the over right now in this game. Pete, I wasn't really on this game much. Maybe I should take a second look. Do you have any interest in some of these pieces? Like I don't really have anyone like specific on my list for this game, if I'm being honest.
It's the same old story with the Colts. They have a big implied team total. The Sharps are betting them because they're a good all-around team. But it's a very hard team to figure out for DFS. You know, I've tried taking stabs at Michael Pittman here. We've seen T.Y. Hilton kind of sneaking in there and having the big games. It's hard to fully trust either of them. I don't think much is different for Jonathan Taylor this week. He had a good game last week, but you just worry about his snap share. He only had a 48% snap share. We know he has the talent to break off big plays, but those are hard to predict. I don't mind him as a tournament play, especially now if Rojo is going to catch some steam here because of this Fournette news. Taylor's not a bad pivot. I'm actually going to think that through because I was just messaging Leone here too, that I don't love this Fournette stuff because I don't think much changes for Ronald Jones' role except the ownership now, which I don't love. And then as far as the Raiders, Darren Waller's so expensive at 6,800, and I don't love this spot at that price tag. I think I'd rather just play Kelsey or get unique at tight end. Aguilar had a ton of air yards last week, 215 air yards. He's only 4,700, but the Colts have been good at limiting big plays. So yeah, I don't have any pieces of this game in my lineups right now. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I get on some Jonathan Taylor, but I just don't love the overall setup here.
Folks in the chat saying they like the under on 52.5. Joe, you with them?
Man, I don't know. I tend to like just kind of follow some of like you just follow the money in these situations, right? But this time of the week, like the lines are relatively intact, but you see this much coming in on the over. Like I don't know, it's hard to justify because I'm with Pete. There's not really a ton to like here overall. So yeah, I think the under makes sense, but it scares me a little bit with all that money on the over. So maybe I'd just be in a stay away position on this one. I think.
Pete, I saw you nodding. It seems like you're in on the under.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm just trying to confirm my own biases of not having guys in this game, which is probably what's happening.
Hey, man. We all got to do what we got to do
here. As an unbiased observer, I think that I'm with Joe when it comes to like that when you get that whopping of a percentage, I kind of just say I'm either not going to bet it or I'll just follow them. That's at least how I do it. Let us know how you do it though in the chat. We'd appreciate that.
One other just kind
85 on the over.
I would say again, one just little tiebreaker for me sometimes in these is I like Pat Thorman's pace column, and he has this as a pace down spot here. Both these teams, we know that with the Raiders getting Jacobs back, they're going to want to establish the run there. So I could see this game slow down. So you know what? I am removing my biases, and I am with a clear level head, still taking the under.
It's funny how that worked out. What information could I throw your way to make you take the over? Josh Jacobs' fully healthy ankle. All right.
You could say,
you guys want to do this? You guys want to?
Defense is only allowed to play with 10 men instead of 11, and then I will start to handle.
The Raiders have been doing that all year. All right. I'm just going to leave it for you, Peter. Talk about Russell Wilson for me in this Jets-Seahawks game, which is in Seattle. It's in Seattle. So long distance flight for the New York Jets. Congratulations. Actually, did they stay somewhere? Forget it. I'm not talking about that anymore. Talk about Wilson.
Oh, this is crazy to me. At the beginning of the week, like one of the things I've done all year in DFS is attack the Jets. I did it last week with Derek Carr. I've done it with Justin Herbert. I've done it with Mahomes. I thought for sure Russell Wilson was going to get steamed. I thought we'd see Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf 25 to 30%. It has not happened. I keep refreshing ownership. I keep hoping for something to confirm what I thought was going to happen. It hasn't happened. I think Russ Wilson is the best quarterback play on the slate this week. I think stacking him with either Lockett or Metcalf, or if you're in a really small field and want to do both, I think that's fine. The bring back options on the Jets, it was looking like it was going to be really chalky. I think Brashad Perriman will be, but because there's uncertainty about Jamison Crowder suiting up, I think Braxton Berrios isn't going to catch hardly any ownership, even if Crowder is scratched. And I was reading some of the beat reports. They think Jamison Crowder might just dress as like an emergency wide receiver. So everything is lining up for me to go to Russell Wilson stacks, Berrios bringbacks. You can toss in cheap pieces as well if you like. I think Jacob Hollister's fine. I think David Moore is fine as well. So I love this spot. I think the Jets are the perfect team to attack. And Joe, I don't know. Am I crazy? I don't know why anyone isn't playing this.
Yeah, and I think the thing I like most about this game, Pete, is I have I think some unique takes on who to stack Russell Wilson with overall. Like I think there'll be some people that will just do the skinny stack, which is fine. But some of the contests we're playing, right, some of the smaller fields, it's a lot more. It's easier to get behind like a full stack just because then you have to get less right. But Russell Wilson paired with Lockett and Metcalf, I don't really want to do that. I mean, there's still like both these guys can go off at any time, sure, but it's such a high negative correlation. But looking into this a little bit more, I kind of like the Russ to Metcalf, bring it back with on the same stack, Chris Carson, because their correlations actually, they have such different roles, DK Metcalf and Carson. Carson actually 0.37 correlation with him. Carson's been so active in the passing game that I think most people will not play him with Russell Wilson. So I actually prefer Carson to Lockett. If you do have like some one-off Metcalf shares, I think Lockett is a reasonable pivot if you want some lower ownership and you get behind early. But that's interesting. I think that what you just said about Crowder as well, maybe Berrios ends up being the basically unowned play. I kind of hope Crowder is active. So hopefully we find out about that throughout the afternoon. I think there's different ways to stack this game and still capture some of the upside. And you said it, like Russell Wilson's not coming in near what he should, but I would put Chris Carson to that category as well. Like 5 to 8% seems way too low.
Yeah. Leone about it before. I don't mind Carson, especially because, I mean, he had 6 targets last week. The fact that he's, their main pass catching back, kind of insulates him for kind of random stuff. I prefer Carson more when he's like leverage on really chalky Seattle wide receivers. But because, all of these guys are coming in right now, fairly low owned, I just prefer to play the receivers, but I don't mind your thought of we've seen production concentrate around one of the wide receivers. So you can play Metcalf or Lockett and then toss in a Hollister or Carson around it. So I don't hate that idea at all. And, I talked about this on my channel with Drewby on the Build Show. Everyone wants to know, do you have to do the bringbacks? Especially with the Jets. I'm messing around with combinations. I have some Berrios in it, and I have one team that I made where I'm not bringing it back, and I actually play Hamler instead, where it's like, yeah, Hamler and Berrios are similar plays. I don't get the bonus of the correlation, but I kind of offset some of the risk if Crowder does play. So I think you slice and dice this game as many ways as you can.
How do you feel about the 14.5 point spread on this one? Does Seattle bust this thing open? Or, it's going to be cold. It's going to be rainy in Seattle. Do they just, obviously they're going to have to pass it at some point, and, the Jets are going to have to keep up. Do you think the Jets can backdoor this one at 14.5? That's a big fat line for a Seattle team that, I don't know, they have the firepower certainly, but you know how they get sometimes. You know how these Seahawks get. Well, what are you thinking about it, Joe? 14.5, too rich for your blood?
We talk a little bit sometimes about like the Steelers playing down to their competition. Like Seattle does that at times too. They've been much better at home. So you'll say that. So I still think this probably a stay away. I don't know what to do sometimes with these like Jets lines because they're so drastic that Seattle's a better team. I think it's like more of a bounce back spot than anything for Russell Wilson. So I want to say the Seattle side, but I don't know. People are probably going to tell me that's a fish bet.
You gonna tell them it's a fish bet, Pete?
Yeah, to me, it's a stay away. But if I was forced to put in my hard-earned dollars that have been to space and back, I'd probably just take Seattle here.
Space dollars. Green Bay and Detroit. Green Bay's an 8.5 point favorite. Detroit still has Matt Stafford as their quarterback. The spread on this one, the total on this one is 54.5. That's 2 points higher than the 52.5 we're seeing everywhere else. Who do you like, Peter Overzet? Who do you like?
Yeah, this is a good game for DFS. It is going to be hard to get really unique in this game because Devontae Adams is going to command, somewhere between 25 to 40% ownership. But man, he is such a good play. Derek Carty has the ceiling projections at Roto Grinders. Devontae Adams is almost a 40-point ceiling projection. Next closest is like Dalvin Cook at 34. So just like a monstrous projection here. And we talked about it earlier. I like builds where you have Devontae Adams in your flex. If you're doing well early, you let it ride with the best play on the slate. If not, you can pivot off to some other stuff, guys like Keenan, Ridley, guys that are going to be lower owned that have a good ceiling as well. Aaron Jones, sometimes he's a great leverage on the Adams ownership. He's going to catch some ownership here. I still think he's a good play. You want to start guys against Detroit. They've been so bad. If you're really trying to get unique, I think you play like a Robert Tonyan, dare I say an MVS at 3,900. Hope he catches one of his bombs like he does every fourth week. And then on the Detroit side, I'm going to throw to Joe to talk about DeAndre Swift, but I will say TJ Hawkinson and Marvin Jones look like good bringbacks. I mean, Marvin Jones back-to-back weeks with 12 targets and still no one wants to play him. But Joe, DeAndre Swift, we have the rumors that, he's not going to get the full workload, but he is active. Where are you at on him?
So this is one I think if people are just looking at like pure projection, like he's going to look severely overpriced, right? But I think what like goes understated sometimes is like these projections, like there is some guesswork involved here, and there's definitely some crowdsourcing of information to get there at times. So like Pete, like do you think there's a chance that Swift comes in and like plays the role that we saw like before, like he's been sick and out of the lineup? Like, because if that's the case, like we should be on this, right? Like this is a game with a huge total. Like if he's going to be as active in the passing game and really just like this matchup couldn't be much better. We're falling over ourselves to play running backs against this Green Bay team. I don't know, but if you just look at the projection, like you can't play this guy if he's going to touch the ball 10 times.
Yeah, it's really, really tricky. I personally, normally the injury return model, this guy would be popping. I am so unbelievably spooked by the brain injury stuff. They keep making a distinction by saying he's out of the concussion protocol, but still dealing with an illness. They even said that he's suffering migraines that are unrelated to a concussion. Like, it just seems so fishy to me. Like,
not sure how that works.
Migraines are one of the telltale signs and symptoms of a concussion. I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying into a full workload. I do think he'll get enough touches to be useful, but I'm not touching him. I'm not starting him. I don't think he's right.
So would you be interested in an Adrian Peterson play?
I'm never interested in that.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Washington and San Francisco and Glendale, Arizona. 49ers are 2.5 point favorites to 43.5 point spread. Peter, over, is he playing anybody in this game?
Sorry, say the game again.
It'll be Washington and San Francisco.
Washington, San Fran.
Oh,
I did really run through it.
Yeah,
yes.
One of my favorite plays, and I'll get the Dieter boots on the ground take. I mean, Brandon Ayuk
not actually anywhere near them.
Well, but it's boots on the ground is more of like a state of mind. It's more of a lifestyle than it is, an actual literal thing, Dieter. So give me the stamp of approval on Brandon Ayuk at 5,400 at low ownership after having 9 targets last week.
Yeah, I like it. If for no other reason than he's clearly the guy who's going to go in the intermediate and in deep pass game. They don't want to do Debo in that. Debo also has this new foot injury that showed up this week. Apparently got stepped on in the game against the Buffalo Bills. That doesn't bode well. They also didn't do any of the stuff that they had been doing with Debo earlier in the season when he was healthy, which is a lot of end arounds and shovel passes and things like that. I don't know what to make of this 49ers offense. They seemed intent on running the ball right into the back of their offensive line. But the one guy that you can count on when they're messing around and trying to figure out what their identity is again is Brandon Ayuk, deep and intermediate. So I'm in on Ayuk. 54 is probably correctly priced given the risk reward benefit there. And he's a good red zone option. He gets open. So I would give you the stamp of approval. I would give you the boot of approval on Brandon Ayuk, Peter.
Thank you. Yeah. And elsewhere in this game, I think Terry McLaurin, he hasn't had a pop-off game here for a few weeks. Earlier in the season, people were like, hey, his underlying volume is great. He's pretty much matchup proof. He's quarterback proof. Let's just play him. And now we've finally seen the ownership and the price tag come down. Joe, to me, this looks like a nice bounce back spot for Terry McLaurin, especially with people wanting to play JD McKissic and Logan Thomas as cheap punt plays.
That's the play, right? So 4:25 p.m. game here, like you're going to have some equity knowing that if I'm not playing JD McKissic at chalk, if I'm anywhere near the cash line going into this game, right? So at that point, leaving out some wide receiver options to get to a guy like Terry McLaurin, who again, like on our NFL data table right now over at linemovement.com, it is one of our top leverage plays of the entire slate, taking into consideration the leverage that it gives you from an ownership perspective, but also ceiling. So yeah, I love the Terry McLaurin call. I think there's going to be some people that are on Logan Thomas as well. So like you leverage McKissic and Logan Thomas at the same time with the best player in this game. That's pretty much what you're trying to do.
How do we feel about Jordan Reed over under 3 catches in this game? Not 3 touchdowns, 3 catches. One trope will never die, and it's Jordan Reed 2 touchdowns. Peter?
I'll take the over on that. He's probably going to only project for 4 to 5 targets. He had 4 catches last week. People in the chat just alerted me to the fact that this is a revenge game. So I think you toss in 1 or 2 extra targets for the revenge narrative, and I think we get home there.
Revenge narrative, one of my favorites. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's flip the sheet here. Let's talk about New Orleans and Philadelphia.
Wait. And do you have handwritten notes for all these games?
Come on.
It's much easier. I have a very small computer screen right now, and I have to keep a lot of stuff on it. I can turn that around for you if you'd so desire.
Will you get your abacus into frame as well for us?
That's how I do my projections. New Orleans is an 8. New Orleans is an 8.5 point favorite against Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Who wants to play the kid out of Alabama and Oklahoma? Who has the stones to go with Hurts? Who has it? Neither of you from your looks, but maybe we could talk about it. What do you think, Joe?
Leone's trying to talk us into Hurts currently, right, Pete? Am I right on that, or has he moved away slowly?
Please don't name drop Leone. People think we're name droppers when we say our friend who we make.
We just miss him so much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're not allowed to talk about our friends on this show. That's a thing.
No. Yeah. It's us just trying to name drop. One of the celebrities, Michael Leone.
Yeah, celebrity. Anyway, yeah, Hurts. So I guess the thing with Hurts is we don't really know what his true ceiling is. Like we have guys in that price range, like Mitch Trubisky. We have guys in better matchups for sure that are kind of down there that also run that sort of thing. I don't really want to be on board with this Philly offense at all, personally. I don't really like this game. I think there's some pieces of it that could go a little bit under-owned. But we were talking about this yesterday at one point, Pete. It sounds like you prefer the quarterback on the other side. Like, are you still on the Taysom train? He seems expensive, man, but he's going to come in low again.
Yeah, I'm playing. I have one of my lineups is a Taysom to Michael Thomas. I'm not bringing it back. I'm doing nothing else with it other than Taysom and Michael Thomas. I think both of them are still underpriced. I mean, Taysom Hill had 83 rush yards last week, and he's also finding a rhythm throwing. He had 2 pass TDs. He's obviously dialed in to Michael Thomas. This Eagles team is awful. They're just imploding week after week. So yeah, I like it. I know he's more expensive, but I still think at 6,600, there's a nice amount of upside there. And yeah, people talking about Jalen Hurts, I think it's fine to run him out naked at 5,100 if you want. Just hope he gets there with the rushing equity. But I don't know who you stack him with. I think you just play him by himself. Maybe you do a weird correlation where you play Jalen Hurts and you bring it back with Michael Thomas or something. But yeah, this isn't a game to be overweight on. I mean, Miles Sanders in another alternate universe would look like a great GPP play. The whole team didn't have a single target or carry inside the red zone to their running backs last week. I mean, it's just devoid of upside. Jordan Howard's going to get goal line work. Boston Scott's going to catch some passes. I can't go to Miles Sanders here.
I just like this game because there's no quarterbacks in it. It's just super awesome. Really into that kind of football. It's either the future of football or the end of the NFL as we know it, one way or another. Watch Taysom Hill just go absolutely semi-nuclear. It's awesome. I'm not getting owned at all. I'm certainly not a corn cob. Atlanta and the Chargers is the final game on the slate. We will wrap up with a bunch of other kind of miscellany here in a second. Atlanta and the Chargers. Does anyone feel comfortable putting money on the Los Angeles Chargers to cover a 1.5 spread at home? I sure as hell don't.
Bounce back spot.
Peter, is this a bounce back spot?
I mentioned this on the Thursday Line Movement show. I normally kind of skirt around some of the betting questions because I'm not really in the weeds with that. I put my hard-earned dollars that have been to space and back on the Chargers
Space
with the points. I kept looking at this line all week. I'm like, how are they 2.5-point home underdogs to the Falcons? I get the Anthony Lynn narratives. I get that he's been a disaster. I think they're a better team straight up, and they're at home. I don't think the Falcons without Julio specifically are anything to write home about. I love this game for fantasy, and I like the Chargers in the betting markets as a bounce back here.
I mean, that's great, but the Chargers are a 1.5-point favorite on blitzbet.eu.
Well, I mean, regardless, 75% of the cash on the Chargers in this spot. Our producer Jordan just put that in our chat. So again, just gonna blindly, when that kind of thing happens, just probably just stay on that side.
Johnny Public over here. Come on, man. You just ride with everybody.
Of the cash, not the tickets.
I'm just saying, listen, just because they're sharp doesn't mean you're sharp too.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we have 25% of the cash on Atlanta, plus 1.5, 75% of the cash on the Chargers, minus 1.5. I don't think it's Mr. Public. I think taking
a little public.
Joe, let me ask you a question here, right? I know that, we have a lot of things that we balance when we're looking at all this stuff, but how much are you going to weight a public being on something versus a sharp being on something? If we have this data that shows us that a large group of people who are more or less professional bettors are on something, are you weighing that more than a public indicator, or how are you judging that in your week-to-week basis?
Yeah, I don't care about the public at all. If anything, I want to be on the other side usually, because normally, if there's a lot of very small bets coming in, like the public type of bets, they're just people that are sitting on their couch hungover right now. So I prefer to be, on the side of the people placing very large bets, and especially on these ones where I still think that the Chargers are in a good spot overall. Like Peter said, we're a little bit more focused and in the weeds on specific players and that sort of thing, but also just the overall game environment of this one, I think shapes up really well for points. And I think that the Chargers, they still have the weapons to have this game. I think that the over is definitely in play, and I prefer that to a side. But when I see a side like this on a game I already like, I think I would just tend skew towards the cash, not the bets.
Do you guys want to talk about the players in this game? Who do you like? Who do you like, Peter Overzet?
Likes do we have on this video right now, Jordan? I'll decide if I want to talk about this.
We have 141 appreciated but measly likes.
And how many people are watching right now?
Right now we have 478. We've been above 400 most of the show. Thanks, guys, for your support.
So it doesn't take a mathematician to realize that more people are watching than there are likes on the video. Do we, Jordan, will you let me know?
Let me get my abacus.
Yeah, get your abacus. And Jordan, do we charge people to watch this video?
I think it's free. That's what I saw. I think it's free.
Okay, it is free. So is it unreasonable to just ask for people to like in exchange for watching just free, incredible content?
I actually think that would be an equitable organization. That'd be a way to really provide value on both sides.
Okay, I think we just figured it out. We figured out what this transaction is here. Okay, I go to space. I risk my life. I give you guys locks of the week, and all we ask is for some likes in return, guys. I now feel like, Joe, do you feel like we can now talk about these players?
Normally when you start yelling at them for likes, it shoots up a little bit faster. So maybe we should stall for 5-6 more minutes. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I could tell you my favorite leverage play in this game, or I could hold it hostage.
Well, let's talk about just how this game's going to go way over and people are scared that Julio Jones isn't in it. You can start there.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was sending me screenshots of this game. People are like, I do not want to touch the Falcons when they don't have Julio Jones. The offense doesn't function. This is where I see buying opportunities. I want to play Calvin Ridley with a massive target share. I want to play Hayden Hurst, who splits without Julio Jones, have been really nice. I want to sprinkle in some Russell Gage. I want to play Keenan Allen at 11% ownership when no one wants to play him because he had one down week when Eckler started to return. So I think this game is really nice to target. Joe, I got a little uneasy because I saw Herbert's ownership creeping up the past couple days. Does that give you any pause on the Chargers side?
I liked it a little bit more before, just in my early builds this morning. That was one of the things that stood out because I still really like the Atlanta side of this game. I think that Ridley is still one of the better leverage options on the slate. Just looking at ownership, people are just going to try and get all the way up to Tyreek and to Devontae. And obviously, if Herbert's going to be that popular, we're still going to see some ownership go Keenan Allen's way. So I think there's some cheaper options on Atlanta that make some sense. And Matt Ryan is just so cheap, man, that I would just prefer, I think, to be overweight on the Atlanta side for DFS. Is that a hot take just based on salaries?
I was making fun of my Christmas mug that we just got out. It has a old red truck with a Christmas tree in there. Someone says Pete's mug looks like something my grandma would give me for Christmas.
Your grandma has good taste. That's what I would say.
Crap on your grandma. You should be so lucky to get your grandma to send you something for Christmas.
Yeah.
My grandma did. She sent me an Amazon gift card yesterday. I got it.
Kind.
Yeah.
What are you going to buy? Another mug?
More mugs.
Damn it. The galaxy brains align. Do you want to give the leverage play? Have they earned the privilege?
Breaking news. We have 212, right? 212 likes. Okay. I like it. We had some people, some boots on the ground in chat helping us out. I think is that all for the games? We have some plays in chat though that people have been going back and forth about. I put them in your chat for all of you dudes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the cheap wide receiver plays. Right? We're talking under 5K in general. Who do you like? In fact, specifically to help out some folks in the chat, how do you feel about Mr. Patrick in Denver, Joe Holka?
He's fine. He's not like my favorite option or anything, but I think if you're looking for a lower own piece down there, he's definitely there, probably like 2 to 5% roughly. Playing that kind of Cortland Sutton light type of role definitely has a big role in the red zone. I mean, I think that Tim Patrick makes the most sense if you have Carolina guys on the other side for sure who are drastically underpriced. But I mean, are we going back to the Jets guys again, Pete? Is that kind of where we're at with value?
Is it Mims time?
So
Mims is out.
Time for a Mims cup.
My favorite wide receivers,
yeah.
And then I do need to go because I do this show for free, and we've gone now for 70 thing. And by free, I mean free.
Spectacular minutes.
Free for you. Anyways, my favorite punt play wide receivers are KJ Hamler, Darnell Mooney, and Braxton Berrios. Those are my favorite punt play wide receivers.
That's a hell of a trifecta. Thank God it's not Andy Isabella. Guys, talk about the tilt space later on today. But what time is it on? Who is on? I hear that there's this Leone guy who's on it. I'm not sure if you've heard of him.
Can't do it.
Do not say his name.
Okay, so it's you two and somebody else, internet fantasy football celebrity. Name to be mentioned later.
It's us two and one of Jordan's mysterious sources who he's not allowed to reveal.
Confirmed.
We will be here at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We need to go and build those lineups right now. We will hopefully have a sweat. We are playing in the $1,500 single entry game changer and the $400 three max juke. We're also going to build a lineup for FanDuel. We're going to dip our toes in the FanDuel streets as well this week. So yes, tune in at 6:30. Turn on that notification bell. You'll know when we go live. It will be a grand old time.
All right, folks. Before we get out of here, and we have held you all a little bit too long, and by y'all, I mean Peter Overzet. Want to tell you all about blitzbet.eu. If you are betting and you are north of the border, you should be using blitzbet.eu. It is fantastic. It has a great line on that Chargers Atlanta game. Just a fantastic line, one that Peter Overzet couldn't even fathom. And everything else, really quite excellent. If you're betting north of the border, blitzbet.eu. It is great. We really like it. You should use it too. And that's it. Good luck to you all. And just remember, next time you're on a flight, be sure to hydrate. It's really important, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us. And be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff because we need it in order to send Peter to space. Good luck.